Guys, welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to learn part B of H.A.Robert's philosophy, chapter 22. This is classification. So in this chapter we are going to learn psora, the mother of chronic disease. Previously we have learned till psychosis, where we learned the difference between the venereal miasms and everything about that. Now we are going to learn part by part of psora. The psora, the mother of chronic disease. So after classifying mechanical diseases, external cause and venereal miasm, syphilis and psychosis, Hahnemann realized that the majority of chronic sufferings like asthma, epilepsy, arthritis, skin troubles, digestive disorders, mental diseases, they didn't belong to any of these known classes. These diseases were not external and not venereal, yet they recurred, persistent and deepened with time. So, for 10 long years, Hahnemann observed thousands of patients, questioned them minutely, traced their family histories, and studied ancient medical records and plagues through the centuries. Through this massive investigation, you have to understand that 10 long years, just think of it, like how much he has put effort about this. So this massive investigation, he uncovered the hidden miasm that lay beneath the world's chronic sickness and called it psora. So the meaning of the word psora. Robert explains the word's roots, dictionary meanings like scabies or itch or psoriasis. So Hahnemann's itch discretia, the parent of all chronic disease. So in the medical dictionary, psora literally means itch or skin disease. But this is only the outer shell of the meaning, because psora is really dangerous. So the deeper meaning of the psora. So in Hebrew, it means tsorat. Robert traces the true meaning back to the Hebrew word tsorat, where T is silent. So tsorat means a groove, a fault, a pollution, or a stigma. So it can be anything like a groove, a fault, a pollution, or stigma, often applied to leprous manifestations and to the great plagues. So this is the meaning Hahnemann truly intended. So even though he found that psora means itch or skin rash, he just thought that it's just an outer meaning. But the real meaning is, he wasn't referring to a mere itch. It doesn't conclude to that. But to a constitutional defect, he should know the meaning as a groove or fault in the very life pattern of the human organism. So psora is not just a rash on the skin, it is a spiritual and functional fault line running through humanity's health. So what Hahnemann discovered about psora. So he learned what is psora, what is miasm, the meaning of psora. Now psora is the most widespread miasm. Robert calls it the great majority of disease of the earth comes under the classification the mother of disease. This means all chronic illness except those caused by syphilis or psychosis. Remember, except those caused by syphilis or psychosis have their root in psora. It is the most ancient, deepest, and most universal of the miasm. For example, if a newborn baby touches someone who is having itch or rash in the skin, then it is said that the psora miasm is transmitted. So that much highly spreading kind of miasm is psora. So psora comes from the ancient plagues. Hahnemann traced it back through history. The plagues of Egypt, leprosy in medieval Europe, France once had 2,000 leper homes. The itch epidemics that swept through Europe. So these diseases, when suppressed by external treatments, passed from generation to generation, not as leprosy or itch anymore, but as hidden constitutional weakness. So at that ancient time, what will happen if there is an itch? What we will do? We will put some creams or whatever it is. So they will suppress it. Any kinds of things that lead to suppression can cause the generational psora miasm hiddens. So that's why even if we are having any itch or anything like that, we shouldn't suppress by putting creams or serums or anything like that. We should heal from within outwards. So psora is a chronic dyscrasia, a constitutional defect, and Robert explains that in modern terms. Psora may be understood as, so in modern world, what is Robert trying to tell to us? He says a deficiency disease, the lack of certain elements in the system or the inability to assimilate them. So in coming chapters we are going to learn psora deficiency, that you will be understanding about it. So here let's see, but more deeply, it is the lack of balance in the vital force, a state of hypersensitivity, and a constitutional instability that makes a person easily affected by external impressions like mental, emotional, or physical. So psora expresses itself in nervous tension, oversensitivity, anxiety, neurosis, functional disturbance without clear pathology, digestive, respiratory, and skin troubles, endless small sufferings that never reaches a crisis but never end. So everything, whatever problem is the problematic child, or the problem, like I'm not saying the problematic child but tuberculosis miasm, I'm just saying the most problematic miasm, like, is in short the psoric person never feels perfectly well. So the psora is such a problem. So when psora first shows itself, what it will reveal? Hahnemann observed that psora first manifests on the skin. So the first symptom after especially in young children, what we first will observe is if the person is having a psoric miasm, the first manifestation will be On the skin, definitely it will be on the skin. This form of disease was first made manifest on the skin as a skin infection or eruption. That was its natural place because it loves to show its manifestation on skin. So the skin eruption is nature's safety valve, the outlet of the internal disorders. As long as the eruption stays on the skin, the vital force is relieved. So the vital force, it's smart, isn't it? So to show that it is having psoric miasm, what will vital force will show? It will manifest skin. Yes, it will manifest skin eruptions. So, but when the skin manifestation is suppressed with ointments, baths, cautery, or surgery, the trouble is driven inward. So, its trouble is driven inward. The danger of suppression. So, Robert warns by suppression, this constitutional state becomes more manifest in a train of distressing symptoms. So, when we drive the skin eruption inward, the body seems cured. But the vital force now turns the disease energy upon deeper organs, lungs, stomach, joints, minds, nerves. That is why we say that if you're having a skin eruption, you shouldn't suppress it, because the vital force is telling that you're having a psora-miasm. So you should treat it within outwards. But instead of within outwards, we will externally try to erase it. So when you erase it externally, the vital force will be telling to us, oh, this person, I have shown the skin manifestation, but he or she has erased it. So what will I do? I will target the heart, I will target the liver, I will target the eyes, or anything important and deep organs. So this is what happens. This is how psora transforms into asthma, epilepsy, ulcers, arthritis, and anxiety. So it's the same root but driven deeper. So the skin disease was not the real disease. It was the signboard of the inner taint. It just shows that there is something bad is happening. For example, acne, especially in young girls or in PCOS conditions. So it shows outwardly like acne, hormonal imbalance, or facial hair growth. All those things are external manifestations. We should understand, okay, my ovaries or my body is undergoing something hormonal imbalance. So what we have to do, we should not target on the pimples or acne. Instead, we have to target the main problem, the inner problem. So Hahnemann found that almost all chronic disease except the purely mechanical or venereal have their roots in psora. Robert summarizes all skin diseases and conditions, almost all glandular swellings, sarcomatous and carcinomatous tumors, deformed bones, hemorrhagic tendency, all suppressions, functional and nutritional disturbance, all these Hahnemann traced psora. So what all psora? Everything, glandular swelling, sarcomatous, carcinomatous, deformed bones, hemorrhagic, everything comes under psora. That means eczema, psoriasis, asthma, goiter, cyst, fibroids, tumors, cancers, ulcers, anemia, malnutrition, mental and emotional disease, all are the branches of the same psoric root, manifesting in different forms. So every disease comes under psora. So the nature of true cure. So okay, I got psoric miasm. Now what should I do? So Hahnemann said this condition could never be cured of itself. So acute attacks may come and go, but the chronic state remains unless it is met by the similar remedy, the dynamic antidote that matches the inner miasm. So only the dynamic treatment, homeopathy, can treat this inner plane and remove the psoric taint. So external or chemical treatments may suppress symptoms, but the vital fault will only shift its expression and never disappear. Psora and its chief sign, itching and sensation as if. So how can you say that you have a psoric miasm? You will be having itching and sensation as if. Hahnemann found that psora manifests primarily through the skin, and one of its constant features is itching. But remember, that isn't just physical itching. It symbolizes a restless inner state, the unease of the life force itself. That's why he called the psora the mother of all disease, because the disturbance begins on the dynamic plane but shows itself in irritation, hypersensitivity, and reactivity. So in homeopathic case taking, when a patient says as if, for example, as if a band around my head, as if needles pricking, as if heart will stop, all these as if, this word will show psoric miasm. These sensations don't come from tissue damage, but from a disturbed vitality. Hence, psora is responsible for subjective sensations, functional disturbances, and emotional hypersensitivity. So, you just remember this. Syphilis destroys, think of volcano. Psychosis overgrows, and psora feels a sensation as if. So, latent miasm, what are those sleeping volcanoes? So, miasms can remain latent, sleeping within the constitution for years without visible disease. But a trigger such as a shock, grief, exposure, vaccination, infection, or accident can awaken it. So this is why sometimes a simple cold, a minor injury, or emotional stress suddenly brings on serious illness, because it stirs the latent psora. Because when you are not physically fit, then you will not be mentally fit. If you are mentally deranged, then you will have physical illness. That's what it happens. So when psora is suppressed or dormant, or even a small external event can awaken deeper disease, you may see pneumonia after getting wet in rain. Yes, even pneumonia after getting wet in rain. You just went out and you got wet in rain, drenched in rain, and then you will get pneumonia because of that latent psora. Septic infection after trivial cut, a small cut, but it can lead to septic infection. Nervous breakdown after a small grief. Someone just triggered you and you went into grief, and later it caused nervous breakdown. So these are not accidental. They reveal the miasmatic background. So the role of homeopath, what is it? The homeopath must always think beyond the acute attack. Behind every sudden illness is a chronic soil, the psoric diathesis. If you select remedies that cover both the acute picture and the psoric depth, like sulfur, soranum, lycopodium, calcarea, etc., you heal the whole patient. So the dynamic nature of disease and cure. Here realize that it was the dynamic force of the remedy that met the dynamic force of disease. What? It means here Robert beautifully captures Hahnemann's greatest discovery, that both the disease and medicine act on dynamic plane. That is the level of vital force. Disease is not matter, it is disturbance of the life force. Hence only a dynamic remedy like potentized homeopathic dose. So remember the homeopathic dose which is potentized. If it is not potentized, it has no use. So can touch and balance it. The drug dynamics must be more potent than the disease dynamics if the disease were to be eradicated, meaning the energy of the potentized remedy must overpower the energy of the disease, not violently but by resonance. So if you're giving a dose, it should overpower the energy of the disease, not in violent form but in resonance, like a stronger tuning fork absorbing the vibration of a weaker one. This is why crude drugs like ointments, suppressive medicines fail, because they fight the symptom, not the dynamic disease. The destruction of power of miasms. Each miasm, psora, syphilis, and psychosis, leaves a stigma, a mark on life force. Like, for example, you just remember as a wall where you will drive a nail. Then after that you will remove. So that one mark will be there, isn't it? Likewise, where any miasm is there, it will leave a stigma on life force. And this mark distorts not only the body, but also the mind and the spirit. That's why you see inherited tendencies like deformities, mental dullness, madness, all traceable to these ancient inventions of vitality. Miasms don't just cause physical illness, they disorganize the human being physically, emotionally, and spiritually. That's why Robert says, hospital, asylums, prisons, all are full of miasmatic humanity. So the true cure lies in the simillimum. So how can we cure it? How can we be free from this thing? So doctors who think disease comes only from germs, climate, or food are seeing only the surface. So homeopathy looks deeper to the miasmatic soil on which the disease germ grows. Hence true cure means eradication of the miasm, not just removal of symptoms. So for this reason, it is essential to find the simillimum. We must seek a deep acting remedy, call it an antisoric if you will, to eradicate the evil. So it means the simillimum, the most similar remedy, must be deep acting enough to reach the miasmatic root. And this is the purpose of antisoric remedies. They don't just palliate but cleanse the life force itself. For example, sulfur, soranum, antisoric remedy, lycopodium, graphite, cilicia, all those are the examples. So the remedy must be in dynamic form. Only the dynamic form of the similar remedy can possibly be the simillimum. So as I told, if just the homeopathic remedy, it is not of any use. But the homeopathic remedy should be in potentized. Then only it will have dynamic energy. Then only it can act on dynamic body. Our body is having dynamic energy, the vital force. So a crude drug affects only tissues. A potentized drug affects the vital force. Since chronic miasms are deeply woven into the very energy structure of the being, only a dynamic potentized similar remedy can reach that level. This is why potentization was Hahnemann's greatest gift. It's transformed inner matter into living energy medicine. Sometimes some people will say, okay, your medicine works like so much power, little dose, water, dilution, all those kinds of things. For example, a person will say, why not you put the medicine on the sea? So it will get more energy, and they will mock at us like that. But the thing is, our medicine is dynamically activated. So if you just put it on the sea, will it dynamize? No. You have to dynamize it by potentization or succussion. Then only it will have energy. If you're just putting it on the water, it will not be working because it is not dynamized. So only if it is dynamized, only if and only if it is dynamized, it will have power, because our body is dynamized. So that's why we have to, when we give to a person, we have to success it or potendize it by titration or succussion. We have to potendize it, then only we'll be able to give to people. If there was some kind of way like we can potendize in C, then it can be, but we cannot at present era. So we have to dynamize it. So in conclusion, it is on the surface that Tsora naturally thrives and does least harm. When driven inward, it becomes the root of every chronic sickness of mind and body. And that's all about this chapter. Thank you for listening. I hope you have understood. If you have any doubts, please comment below and subscribe to my channel, and you'll get more videos about it. It will be helpful for you to understand the philosophies much better, which I was not able to understand when I was studying during my UG course. Thank you. Have a great day.